Robert Cummings was an American film and TV actor best known for his roles in 1940s comedy films like Princess O'Rourke and The Devil and Miss Jane. He also shined in dramatic offerings like Alfred Hitchcock's Saboteur and Dial M for Murder. Throughout his acting career, his performances were highly celebrated by critics and audiences. He was nominated for 5 Primetime Emmy Awards, and in 1955 he won Best Actor in a Single Performance. While he remained active in show business until his death in 1990, his later years in the spotlight saw him fall from grace in more ways than one. He went from being one of the most handsome and sought-after Hollywood stars to being hopelessly dependent on methamphetamine and finding himself in a straitjacket in 1965. Join Facts First as we discuss Robert Cummings' tragic downfall. At first, Robert didn't realize he was taking meth. Cummings and many other artists and actors from his time didn't realize that the purportedly vitalizing vitamin injections he was receiving from a Dr. Max Jacobson in New York actually contained methamphetamine. Little did he know the injections would lead him to the brink of losing almost everything. The FDA is in place these days to put a stop to these kinds of drugs. While cocaine was once an ingredient in Coca-Cola's original formula, and heroin was once viewed as the cure for opium addiction, science has taught us a lot about how these horrendous drugs interact with the human body and what kind of consequences they can lead to. When Cummings sought out treatment from Dr. Jacobson, however, very little was known about the ill effects of prolonged amphetamine abuse. At one point, he was very interested in healthy living. Jacobson, infamously now known as Dr. Feelgood, was recommended to Cummings by his friends Rosemary Clooney and Jose Ferrer after he started complaining about a lack of energy while filming 1954's 12 Angry Men. Jacobson claimed his treatments contained a combination of vitamins, sheep semen, and monkey gonads, but the true composition of the shots was far more sinister. Cummings continued to use Jacobson's injections for years, eventually being treated by his son Thomas. Later, he injected the drug cocktail himself. His personality rapidly changed as he continued to use the drug. He would have intense moments of euphoria and drug-induced mania, followed by depression and delusions that ultimately damaged his career and led to an emergency intervention by his friend and fellow television personality Art Linkletter. Unfortunately, that intervention wasn't successful, and Robert's continued drug use further destroyed his career and damaged his relationships. In the end, his addiction pushed him out of showbiz, although he would occasionally make an on-screen appearance. By the 1970s, he had moved on to sourcing the drug from the black market. Ultimately, his mental state deteriorated to the point he could no longer function. While suffering from Parkinson's disease, Cummings was forced to move into a home for destitute elderly actors in Hollywood. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to Facts First for more. And hit the join button to become a Facts First member. You'll gain access to exclusive content that's a bit more mature than our typical offerings. Cummings' 5 marriages. Robert's first wife was Emma Myers, a girl he knew from his hometown, Joplin, Missouri. They were married in 1931 when he was 20. They filed for divorce in 1933. His second marriage was to a woman named Vivi Janis, an actress who performed in the Ziegfeld Follies. They tied the knot in 1935 and later divorced in 1943, citing irreconcilable differences. His third wife, Mary Elliott, was a former actress who handled all his business affairs. They got married in 1960, separated in 1968, and divorced in 1970. Towards the end of the relationship, Elliott accused Robert of cheating on her with one of his secretaries. Through their bitter divorce proceedings, Elliott noted that Robert's methamphetamine abuse also caused him to have intense mood swings. She also revealed that Cummings relied heavily on the advice of numerologists and astrologers to make major financial decisions, which she said led to disastrous results. After their divorce had been finalized, their combined property was estimated to be worth somewhere between $700,000 to $800,000, which would have been the equivalent of about $4 to $5.5 million. All that money, however, was eventually wasted on drugs and Robert's many legal troubles. Robert married a woman named Gina Fong in 1971. They remained married until 1987. In 1989, he married Martha Berzinski, who stayed by his side until his death in 1990. Cummings had a total of 7 children. One of his sons, Tony Cummings, went on to follow in his footsteps by becoming an actor. His most notable role was that of Rick Halloway on the NBC daytime soap opera Another World in the early 80s. Cummings' co-stars found him obnoxious. From 1964 to 65, Cummings was the male lead in the CBS sitcom My Loving Doll, co-starring with Julie Newmar and Jack Mulaney. After 21 episodes, Cummings requested he be written out of the show, although other accounts imply he was actually fired due to erratic behavior. After 5 episodes without him, the show was canceled. Cummings was viewed rather positively by the viewing public for that role, but it might come as a surprise that some of his co-stars found him obnoxious and petty. Cummings' reputation for being difficult to work with was apparently well known in Tinseltown, and in the decade after My Living Doll went off the air, his ability to find work drastically diminished. Much of this had to do with his drug addiction, but his often turbulent personal life was also taking a toll on his professional career. Bill Daly, a longtime veteran of the sitcom world, knew of Robert's unsavory tendencies. That's why, in 1980, while appearing on The Match Game, when tasked with answering a question about what the fictional dog Lassie's true identity was when she went back to her dressing to take off her fur coat, he said Robert Cummings' name. Flashback to 1952, when Cummings appeared on his first TV show, My Hero. He fired one of the program's lead writers out of pure arrogance. Not long after that, he flat out refused to be handed a legal summons while behind the wheel of his car. Instead, he hit the gas and ended up dragging Los Angeles County Deputy Sheriff William Conroy down the road. By the late 40s, Robert had been slapped with at least 4 lawsuits. In 1972, he was tied to a pyramid scheme involving his fraudulent sale of bunk supplements. 3 years later, he was arrested for owning an illegal blue box device that allowed him to make unlimited free phone calls. Despite his squeaky clean on-screen persona, he seemed to be constantly getting into legal trouble and stepping on toes. Cummings had a reputation for being creepy with women. Many viewers felt uncomfortable when watching My Living Doll. What was a man who looked twice Julie Newmar's age doing with a submissive, programmable robot? On that program, Cummings played a psychiatrist who always seemed to have his pick of the litter when it came to the women in his life. At the height of his addiction, Cummings was reported to display erratic behavior. While on the set of My Living Doll, Julie Newmar witnessed Robert inject himself in the ankles with his vitamin cure-all. He once even offered it to her to enhance her performance. Fortunately, she declined. At age 80, Cummings died of kidney failure and complications of pneumonia on December 2, 1990, at the Motion Picture and Television Country House and Hospital in Woodland Hills, California. He was interred at the Great Mausoleum at the Forest Lawn Cemetery in Glendale, California. He has 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame at 1718 Vine Street and 6816 Hollywood Boulevard. Now it's time to hear from you. Do you think Robert's acting career would have played out differently if he hadn't fallen into addiction? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Factsverse if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.